I should have sensed that something wasn't right the moment my parents began speaking to me with those unusually kind smiles. Mom started by saying how proud they were of my discipline and reliability. "Emma, you've always been so dependable," she said, sliding a few papers across the kitchen table. "Your brother David needs our support right now, and we know you'll understand." I looked down at the papers. They weren't bills or forms from work. They were student loan documents, and my name was listed as the borrower. David sat beside them, staring at his phone, barely paying attention. It was clear the discussion wasn't really about what I thought or felt. "Medical school costs a lot," Dad began, pushing his glasses up the bridge of his nose. "David's been accepted into an incredible program, but the financial aid package doesn't cover everything. We just need someone with solid credit to co-sign." He looked at me in that hopeful way parents do when they've already made a decision and expect you to agree. "What about your credit?" I asked. But deep down, I already knew. They had refinanced the house twice to cover David's college tuition, his European gap year, and even his brief attempt at becoming a musician. "Our debt-to-income ratio is a little high," Mom said carefully, her voice sweet but rehearsed. "But you have that steady restaurant job, and your credit score is excellent. This would really help your brother move forward." I skimmed the numbers. $47,000 per year. 4 years total. Nearly $200,000. My stomach sank. "This is a lot of money," I said. Dad didn't hesitate. "It's an investment, Emma. In your brother's future, in our family's future. Imagine it, Dr. David Martinez. Doesn't that sound great?" David finally looked up, smiling lazily. "Thanks, Emma. You're the best sister ever." Then his attention returned to his phone. I sat there silently, thinking about the last 10 years. Since I was 16, I had worked non-stop. Morning shifts at Mel's Diner, afternoons at the campus bookstore, and nights waitressing at Romano's. I saved everything I could, hoping one day to go back to school. "What about my education?" I asked quietly. Mom reached out and touched my hand. "Oh, sweetheart, you're already doing so well. You don't need a degree to succeed. Look at how hard you work. Someone has to be the sensible one." Her words stung. I had graduated high school with a 3.8 GPA and had been accepted into 3 universities. But when David chose a private college, suddenly the money was gone. "Community college is always an option," Dad added, like he was offering a consolation prize. "Affordable, practical." I glanced around our kitchen. The granite countertops were brand new. The espresso machine, David's study essential, sat on the counter. Outside, his shiny BMW gleamed in the driveway, a reward for finishing pre-med. Meanwhile, I still drove my old 2003 Honda Civic, the one I'd bought with tips. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "Of course," Mom said. "But the deadline to accept the loan is tomorrow. So please don't take too long." That night, I sat in my cramped studio apartment, the cheapest I could find within driving distance of all 3 jobs, and stared at the loan documents. $200,000. Even if I paid the minimum, it would follow me for 20 years. But David was family. Family helps family. That's what my parents had always said. So I signed. The next 4 years blurred together in a mix of work, exhaustion, and sacrifice. David's social media was full of parties, study trips, and vacations. Meanwhile, I was working 70-hour weeks to keep up with payments and my own rent. He complained about cafeteria food. I lived on instant noodles. When he needed money for a study abroad trip, my parents came to me again. "It's just $8,000 more," Mom said. This opportunity could change his career. I took out another loan. When he needed a new laptop, they came again. $3,000, Dad said. "It's for research. He needs the latest model." I maxed out my credit card. When he needed money for exam fees and residency interviews, they came again. "This is the last time," Mom promised. "Just $12,000 more. Once he's a doctor, it'll all pay off." I borrowed against my 401k. By then, I was 26, still living paycheck to paycheck. I had applied to nursing school twice, but had to withdraw both times. I couldn't afford to cut my hours. My savings were gone. My debt was massive. My life was standing still, but at least David was on track to become a doctor. That was supposed to make it worth it. Everything changed the night of his graduation party. Mom and Dad had rented the back room at Romano's, the same restaurant where I worked. I was assigned to the event, my family's celebration. I served champagne and appetizers while they toasted to David's success. He laughed with his classmates, talking about his upcoming residency at a prestigious hospital. He told someone he planned to go into dermatology. Good lifestyle, great money, he said with a grin. Then I heard him talking to his girlfriend. My parents did so much for me, he said proudly. They really believed in me, his girlfriend smiled. That must have been tough on them financially, David laughed. Not really. My sister paid for most of it. She's got this weird savior thing. Always wants to be the hero. Honestly, I think she enjoys feeling needed. My chest tightened. That's still really generous of her, his girlfriend said. David shrugged. I guess. It's not like she was going to do anything important with the money anyway. She's just a waitress. This way, at least it went toward something meaningful. The tray in my hand slipped. Glass shattered across the floor. The room went silent. I'm sorry, I said, dropping to my knees to clean it up. Mom rushed over. Emma, please be careful, she whispered sharply. This is David's special night. Blood ran down my hand from a small cut, but no one noticed. When the party ended, I stayed behind to help clean. Then I sat in my car outside the restaurant and cried. 26 years old. $60,000 in personal debt. 3 jobs, no degree. All for someone else's dream. But that night, something inside me shifted. The anger settled into focus. I went home and opened my laptop. If I was going to sacrifice everything for David, I was going to record every part of it. I created a spreadsheet and entered every payment, every late fee, every interest charge. I dug up 4 years of bank statements and organized every receipt, every loan, every credit card payment, every withdrawal from my 401k. Then I expanded my documentation. I saved screenshots of David's social media posts, expensive restaurants, trips abroad, luxury clothes. I added photos of the BMW, the new laptop, the designer bags. I included copies of every email where my parents asked for just a little more help. I logged my own financial reality. 2 loan payments eating 40% of my income, skipped health insurance, the abandoned college applications I could never afford to pursue. Finally, I saved every message that showed how my family really saw me. Every text, every email, every reminder that, to them, my role wasn't to dream. It was to sacrifice. I kept every message. Mom once texted me, "Don't mention David's spring break trip to your father. He still thinks you're only helping with tuition." Another time, Dad emailed, "Emma's the sensible one. She doesn't need what David needs." Then there was David himself. When I asked him if he could cover even a few loan payments, he laughed. "Emma, I'm in med school. I can't work right now." That's what family is for. I continued paying. Month after month. 3 jobs, no rest, and debt that wasn't even mine. But as the exhaustion grew, so did my resolve. Quietly, I started preparing. For 6 months, I collected proof of every payment and every message. I spoke to a lawyer to understand my rights. I opened a new bank account that no one in my family knew about and started planning my way out. Then I applied to nursing school again, but this time I was smarter. I found a program that offered evening and weekend classes. When my acceptance letter arrived, I didn't tell anyone. I filled out financial aid forms in my own name. My education, my debt, my decision. At work, I began to see things differently. Romano's wasn't just a restaurant anymore, it was a network. I stopped just taking orders and started talking to people. Most of our customers were professionals from different industries. I asked questions, listened, and learned. They told me about companies that paid for employee education, about career paths I never knew existed. One woman, Patricia, came in regularly for business dinners. She worked in pharmaceutical sales. After hearing part of my story one evening, she looked at me seriously. "You know, Emma, my company's hiring," she said. "We need someone reliable and great with people. Starting salary is $45,000 plus commission, full benefits, tuition reimbursement, and a company car. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. You've been serving our team for months, she said. You're professional, sharp, and you get people. That's what we look for. 3 weeks later, I handed in my notice at all 3 jobs and started my new career. The difference was life-changing. The company car saved me hundreds each month. The insurance plan was better than anything I'd ever had. For the first time in years, I wasn't working weekends. But I didn't tell my family. Not yet. When David began his residency, the loans officially shifted into repayment mode. My parents assumed I'd continue making the payments. Residents don't earn much, Mom said during one of our usual family dinners. It wouldn't be fair to expect David to start paying right away. How long until he helps? I asked. Dad thought for a moment. Probably not until he finishes residency. Maybe when he starts his fellowship or goes into private practice. These things take time. David nodded, acting serious. Yeah, Emma, I really appreciate you handling this. Once I'm making real money, I'll pay you back. Promise. I smiled, but I'd already done the math. Residency meant 4 years. The dermatology fellowship would take another year. Then he'd need time to get established. Realistically, it would be 7 years, maybe more before he even considered helping. Meanwhile, I was excelling at my job. The same persistence that had kept me afloat before now made me one of the top performers in my region. Within 6 months, I was leading in sales. Within a year, I earned a promotion, senior sales representative, $68,000 base salary plus commission. It felt good to succeed quietly. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell my parents. I was finally building something for myself, and I wanted to protect it. Then, during David's 2nd year of residency, the familiar pattern returned. He had found a new apartment, a 2-bedroom with modern furniture and a rooftop gym. The rent's a bit high, Mom said during our family dinner, but it's perfect for David's lifestyle. He just needs a little help covering the difference. How much are we talking about? I asked. Maybe $600 a month, Mom said. Just until he gets his attending position. I stared at her. That's $7,200 a year. It's an investment in David's mental health, Mom replied without hesitation. He needs a comfortable environment. It's part of being a doctor. His professional image matters. David jumped in eagerly. You should see it, Emma. There's a pool, a gym. You could come by any time. It'll be like I'm sharing with you. He said it like it was a generous offer. I forced a polite smile. Can I think about it? Of course, Dad said, but he needs to tell the landlord by Friday. That night, I sat in my apartment thinking about every year, every payment. Every time they'd said just this once, it was time to stop. The next morning, I called Patricia. I told her everything, the loans, the expectations, the constant guilt. She listened carefully. When I finished, she said, Emma, you need proper legal help. This isn't generosity anymore. It's exploitation. She introduced me to her attorney, Jennifer, a specialist in family financial abuse cases. Jennifer reviewed the documents and looked at me with calm professionalism. What you've described is financial exploitation, she said. Your parents have used your credit and income to fund your brother's life without legal responsibility or limits. You've effectively become his guarantor, but without consent and practice. She outlined my options. First, we could request that David be added to the loan accounts, making him legally responsible for payments. Second, we could arrange a formal family mediation session with written agreements to establish repayment terms. Third, we could take a stronger route, a documented family meeting led by an attorney, presenting the facts clearly and professionally. Sometimes, Jennifer said, families need to see everything in writing before they understand how serious it is. Her calm explanation made something inside me settle. I thought back to that night at Romanos, to David's smug words about my martyr complex. Thought about the blood on my hands from the broken glass and the years of silence that followed. It was time to end this pattern. Let's schedule the meeting. I said. Jennifer nodded. We picked a date 2 weeks out. That evening, I called my parents and told them I wanted to discuss our financial arrangement at our next family dinner. I said I'd invited a friend who was a lawyer to help organize things properly. Mom sounded relieved. "That's wonderful, honey," she said. "It'll be good to put everything in order. David's so busy these days. We'll make it simple." She had no idea what was coming. The silence after my words was sharp. Everyone stared at me, unsure if they had heard me right. My father's eyebrows rose. My mother blinked several times. David's mouth opened slightly, confusion spreading across his face. I looked at them calmly. "I work in pharmaceutical sales now. I earn a good salary, have full benefits, and my own car. I've paid every dollar of David's loans with my own income, and I'm done doing that." Jennifer gathered her documents neatly and stood beside me. The tension in the room was thick. My parents looked as if someone had pulled the ground out from under them. For years, they had seen me as the dependable one who would quietly handle every family problem. That image had just crumbled. Mom tried to recover first. "Emma, sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We could have celebrated your success," I smiled faintly. "Because every time I've had a success, it's been turned into another reason to give more. I needed something that was mine." David's girlfriend, Sarah, broke the silence. "So wait, you've been paying his loans all this time while he's been living comfortably and going on vacations?" Jennifer nodded. "Correct. And we have full documentation to prove it." David glared at her, his voice rising. "This isn't fair. You're making me look like some kind of freeloader." Jennifer's tone stayed even. "I'm not making you look like anything, David. I'm showing what the numbers already say." I met his eyes. "You didn't seem to think it was unfair when I was working 3 jobs to keep up with payments." Dad finally spoke, his voice firm but uncertain. "Emma, we raised you to help each other. That's what families do." "I did help," I said. "For years. But helping turned into being taken advantage of. There's a difference." Jennifer laid the agreement on the table again. "This plan gives everyone a clean path forward. It protects Emma's financial stability and allows David to take responsibility in a manageable way." Mom's voice cracked. "But bringing a lawyer into this, you've made it so cold." I looked straight at her. "What's cold is watching me struggle while David enjoys everything I paid for. What's cold is pretending this arrangement was normal." No one spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioner. Jennifer packed up her folder and gave my family a polite nod. "I'll expect your decision within a week." We left the house together. When we got into her car, I finally exhaled. Jennifer looked at me. "You did well. That was hard, but necessary." "I didn't expect it to feel this heavy," I admitted. "But it needed to happen." Over the next week, I heard nothing from my family. No calls, no messages. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space to breathe. On Friday evening, I received an email from Jennifer. Attached was a scanned copy of the signed agreement. David had agreed to the terms. He would take over the loan payments immediately and repay me over the next 5 years with interest. I read the document twice. Relief hit me like a wave. I wasn't trapped anymore. 2 days later, Mom called. Her voice was soft, tired. "I hope you're happy, Emma. You've embarrassed your brother." "I didn't embarrass him," I said. "I asked for fairness. That's all," she sighed. "Families don't keep score." "Maybe not," I replied. "But they shouldn't make one person pay all the bills either." After that, I stopped attending family dinners. I focused on my job, on saving money, on planning for my future. I enrolled in evening classes to finish the nursing program I'd put on hold years earlier. My company reimbursed part of my tuition. Months passed. My life stabilized. I moved into a small but bright apartment, paid off my personal credit cards, and even started a modest retirement account. The weight that had followed me for years was gone. David didn't contact me for nearly 6 months. Then one day I got a short message. "Hey, I've been thinking about everything. You were right. I'm sorry. I'm making the payments and I'll stick to the plan. I hope you're doing well." I read it twice before replying. "Thank you. I hope you're doing well too." I didn't need more than that. Looking back, what I learned was simple. Family love should not require financial sacrifice that destroys your own life. Support should be mutual, not one-sided. By choosing to stand up for myself, I didn't break my family. I simply stopped being the only one holding it together. For the first time, I felt free. The room had been silent after I revealed the truth. My voice was steady, but the message carried the weight of everything I had endured. I looked each of them in the eye. I'm a pharmaceutical sales representative now. My base salary is $87,000 a year, plus commission. Last month, I earned more than David makes in 3 months of his residency. The words hit them hard. My father's expression shifted from pride to confusion. My mother's mouth opened slightly, but she said nothing. David's face turned pale. I waited, letting the truth settle. I've also been accepted into a nursing program, I continued. In 18 months, I'll have my bachelor's degree in nursing. My company is paying for all of it. They still didn't speak. The silence was worth every sacrifice I had made. The difference between David and me, I said quietly, is that I didn't need anyone else to give up their future for my success. I worked for it myself. Jennifer, ever composed, packed her briefcase and stood up. You all have my contact details, she said. Please let me know your decision by next Sunday. We left them at the dining table, stunned and speechless. 6 days later, David called. His voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. Emma, he said, I signed the agreement. Jennifer has all the papers. I said nothing at first. I also took a part-time job at a medical clinic, he added. I need to start paying what I owe. It's about time I did. That caught me off guard. David had never talked about working outside of medicine. Good, I said. He hesitated. I didn't realize how much you gave up, he continued. Sarah helped me go through the numbers. You lived with almost nothing so I could go to medical school. I'm sorry, Emma, I really am. I'll make this right, I let him speak. For once, his words sounded genuine. Thank you, I said simply. That means a lot. For the first time in years, we spoke like siblings again, not like debtor and creditor. Our parents took longer to face reality. They were angry that I had brought a lawyer into our family business. They said I'd betrayed their trust, that I'd embarrassed them. But they couldn't argue with the math. Jennifer's documentation was clear. I had carried the weight of their decisions while they ignored the cost. It took 3 months to transfer the loans officially. David assumed all payments and began reimbursing me on a fixed schedule. When the process was complete, my next paycheck was truly my own for the first time in 4 years. The family dynamic shifted. There were awkward dinners filled with quiet tension. My parents were uncomfortable with the new boundaries. I wasn't the reliable safety net anymore. They could no longer count on me to fix every problem. But that discomfort was necessary. David changed the most. Making his own payments gave him perspective. He began to understand what real responsibility felt like. His tone softened. His gratitude grew. He stopped taking my support for granted and started to recognize how much I had done for him. Our parents still struggled. They'd spent years treating my sacrifices as a given. It took time for them to see that they had been unfair. 6 months later, I graduated from nursing school. David surprised me by showing up with flowers and a card. He hugged me tightly. I know this is 4 years late, he said, but I wanted to be here for your graduation, since you were there for all of mine. Inside the card, he had written, "Thank you for believing in my dreams when no one believed in yours. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you know how grateful I am." That evening, my family took me out to dinner. For the first time ever, David insisted on paying. 3 years have passed since then. Our relationship has reached balance. David completed his residency and started a dermatology fellowship. He has been consistent with his payments, and he has already reimbursed me for half of what I contributed. The real change, though, is in how he treats me. He supports my ambitions now. When I decided to pursue my nurse practitioner degree, he was the first to offer encouragement. My parents have changed too. They ask about my career, my goals, and my life. They no longer treat me as the family problem solver. As for me, I'm thriving. I completed my nursing degree with honors while continuing to excel in pharmaceutical sales. I've been promoted twice and now lead a team of 12 sales representatives across 3 states. Last year, I bought my first home. A real house, not a tiny apartment. A place that's mine, built with money I earned. Most importantly, I learned to value my own goals. I stopped seeing sacrifice as proof of love. Saying no to exploitation isn't selfish. It's survival. I learned that genuine family support lifts everyone up instead of resting on one person's back. Those student loans once felt like chains around my life, but they became my turning point. They forced me to protect myself, to define boundaries, and to rebuild my worth. My future, my education, and my peace of mind matter just as much as anyone else's. And now, finally, they do.